Wait, remember Kirby Right Back at Ya? The pink puffball known as Kirby is one of the most iconic figures in gaming, and in the early 2000s, it seemed like a great time to give him his own anime series in Japan, just so 4Kids can license it for the FoxBox in the United States and place it next to another iconic gaming mascot in their own show, Sonic X. Seems like a good time, right? Let's bring this mainly quiet gaming protagonist and create a show all about him. And man, what a show it was. It all comes wrapped in this very nice, colorful world of Planet Popstar, as we have your basic staples of the Kirby series included in. From the powers Kirby can acquire by sucking in enemies to get their abilities to main characters from the video games like the awesome Meta Knight and the less than awesome but lovable bad guy King Dedede. I have fond memories of tuning in and watching this show along with all the other offerings on the FoxBox at the time, and it's a cute 100 episode anime that I have personally revisited several times throughout my life because it just makes me smile, okay? So today, let's take a look into what Kirby Right Back at Ya was all about. Before we jump into this video, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering awesome boxes of top-shelf goods from under-the-radar brands, and it's free to join up, as well as skipping a month if needed, or cancel at any time. Every month, they introduce people to new products that can range from clothing, outdoor gear, kitchen goods, and more. 90% of the products come from small brands, many of which are based right here in the US. What you do is you fill out a preference quiz, and Bespoke Post will show which boxes are the right fit for your tastes. Every box has around a $70 retail value, but only costs a fraction of the value. Some examples of products here that Bespoke Post sent me are the Weekender, Parked, and Wabi Sabi boxes. The Weekender box comes with a very nice travel bag to use for a brief getaway, which has been great for me since I've been traveling a lot more. The Parked box comes with this compact yet extremely sturdy camping chair, and the really cool Wabi Sabi box that comes with this incredible sushi plate, dipping bowls, chopsticks with chopstick rests, and even some shoyu Japanese soy sauce and a soy sauce dispenser to round out everything included. Each month before anything is shipped to you, you'll get a preview of the box of awesome assigned to your personal tastes, allowing you to be in the know of what you're getting with the ability to either keep it as is, swap it out for a different box, or skip the month entirely at no charge. So to get 20% off your first box at Bespoke Post, click the link in the description and enter code FRINGE20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/fringe20. Thanks again to Bespoke Post for sponsoring today's video. Kirby Right Back at Ya serves as a somewhat origin story for Kirby, as we get introduced to him in the series where he is very young and still early on in his missions of being a star warrior to defend the galaxy from evil. When we meet Kirby in the series, he is drifting through the stars in his starship, as it incubates him to be at the level of readiness and power to take down any monster created by the ultimate endgame bad guy of the series, Nightmare. His ship is meant to detect when these creatures arise and head towards whatever planet they're on, and here it does just that, but in doing so, wakes Kirby up for this mission way before he's matured enough to handle these situations, sending him straight to Planet Popstar. When Kirby literally crash lands into the planet, it's not hard to tell by how Kirby mimics basic words and has a clueless yet wondrous look on his face that he's more akin to an infant and not ready to be at where the level of Star Warriors would typically be at. He meets two siblings, Tiff and Tuff, who become his friends and begin aiding him on his mission to stop all the evils of Nightmare that get thrown his way. Other than that, there are other bad guys that get in Kirby's way, like King Dedede and his top stooge, Eskar Goon. That is just a great name. In fact, King Dedede just doesn't like Kirby from the jump when he shows up, and being the reason why Kirby ends up staying on the planet to deal with more problems after his ship is completely destroyed by Dedede. Nightmare's evil doings are hidden, or not really so hidden, behind a corporate veil known as Nightmare Enterprises, with King Dedede purchasing direct-to-consumer monsters to go after Kirby, as he is just the main overall reoccurring villain. But you know, the goofy and not so threatening type of villain that you laugh at as they do literally anything, all put together with a southern drawl for 100 episodes worth of shenanigans. Kirby's story throughout the series is about growth, starting off as a young, non-experienced defender of the stars, and he works with his new allies to become the strong, well-trained fighter who will have to face Nightmare and save the galaxy. The show is full of fun adventures, heart, and a whole lot of sucking in enemies and spitting them right back at you. That's why they call it's called that, because they call it that.
You watching a FoxBox? Now back to Kirby Right Back at Ya!
One of the internet's favorite people in video games, Masahiro Sakurai, is the creator of the Kirby franchise, and he doesn't hide his love for the pink puff of a hero he came up with. When going into the anime being created, he was fully on board with it all, serving as the main supervisor for the entire project and getting his hands on helping chart the pre-production to ensure that the show would have all the same feelings that the games have. It needed to be welcoming to anyone who would tune in, from the kids watching to the parents who would find themselves watching along. But most importantly, it needed to embody the spirit of Kirby. Sakurai is no stranger to overworking himself, and we've seen this with how hard he works on the Super Smash Bros. Series. He would be putting his effort into overlooking the anime for Kirby while he was working on Super Smash Bros. Melee, as this was all happening at the start of the century, the great year of Willennium. Well, that technically released at the end of 1999, but regardless, that album slapped. But creating a show based on a video game comes with a whole set of challenges, some from the very nature of adapting a video game in general, and some from playing with the new ideas they could have for the direction of the show. Soji Yoshikawa, the series director, was put through the ringer trying to adapt Kirby. How was he going to lead this production to a successful finished product? And I don't mean success in the ways of monetary gain or immense popularity, I mean success as just making something that accomplished their goal and that everyone who worked on it is proud of. One of the issues up front consisted of how to navigate a character who rarely, if ever, speaks, and when they do, like I had mentioned, it's very much like a baby learning their first words and repeating them back to those who said the word to him in the first place, or he's just saying his own name like a Pokemon. I'm sure there's some theory video or blog post out there that tries to connect Kirby to being related to Jigglypuff, but this isn't that video. Sorry, my theory friends out there, maybe another time. Absolutely not. To work around this fact of Kirby not really speaking, Kirby needed to serve as a vessel for the characters and the world itself to tell the story. We can look to Kirby for being a wholesome little hero and get into the action or random fun nonsense when the opportunities come around. But to give us plot, conflict, and context to it all, Kirby's friends and allies serve as the main mouthpiece, while bad guys like King Dedede and the various monsters Kirby has to deal with build up the rest of it, creating a show that can work with Kirby still front and center, but not having to rely on him to deliver all the goods that make a show. Like a lot of cartoons that had a 2D art style in the 2000s while CG cartoons were on the rise, some 3D elements would be used and blended into the 2D animation. Sometimes it was for making the production of it all easier, sometimes it was an artistic choice. There are plenty of cartoons that showcase how uncanny and downright bad this can look in the final product, but other cartoons do the best they can to keep it as much in line with the style of the show to have it feel less jarring and can honestly turn out pretty cool. For Kirby, there are plenty of 3D elements, not just for more complicated designs, machines, or random contraptions, but for main characters of the show, like Kirby himself. Even King Dedede has a 3D model that is used. Putting in the effort that they did, these models feel like they fit into the world and are actually a part of the backgrounds that they're on, given proper shading, and interact with anything 2D very well. I feel it also helps that Kirby had already been transferring to a 3D model in recent video games and beyond, so seeing Kirby have these moments of being CG doesn't feel weird or out of place. The result of all this hard work turned into Kirby of the Stars in Japan, releasing on October 6, 2001. Nearly a year later, on September 14, 2002, Kirby Right Back at Ya would officially premiere on the FoxBox, being one of the first programs on the FoxBox and becoming one of the main reasons why this programming block was so much fun, despite all the 4Kids unique brand of censorship they added. During the localization process, 4Kids is always heavy-handed with what gets cut out, re-edited, or removed entirely before the final product releases, leading to stuff like any Japanese text being removed and segments deemed too violent or impressionable for kids to replicate being shortened, or flat out removed from the episode. Sure, Kirby firing a gun and wine being sipped on is too much, but start the first episode of the show with a terrifying monster consuming sheep then spitting out the bones of the animals at the villager? Yeah, that's how I want to start my Kirby show, with no Kirby to be seen in the murder of a herd of sheep. It's okay though, that catchy theme song cuts right in and it makes it all better. What about a whole subplot from the series being removed? Well, of course, 4Kids can't let you have the Galaxy Soldier subplot. They needed to limit all of that, and instead of being called soldiers, Star Warriors fits better for their speed. And jokes aside, I don't mind that name change, I just mind the cut content. There was a lot of stuff that would be considered more dumb, and I am sure that they have their reasons for it, but more stuff like the artwork that resembled famous real-world works of art were changed a bit. The music of the series was completely different as they removed the original score by Akira Miyagawa and additional use of Kirby video game music. Episodes would be released out of order if they wanted certain episodes that were holiday themed or had some sort of coinciding event or product release they wanted to match better, and that's just scratching the surface without making a whole video dissecting every detail for Kirby's 4Kids censorship. And this was only one of their shows. They did this to all of their shows that they got licensed. It's a rabbit hole. The episode A Dental Dilemma was flat out banned for the fact that it could paint dentists in a negative light, as the show makes it seem to children that they are scary. Heaven forbid. But eventually they did release the episode on TV towards the end of the series, so a silver lining. Speaking about the end of the series, the final batch of episodes were not released on TV to wrap things up, but instead they were released as a special DVD titled Kirby Fight to the Finish. So while it's nice that the series didn't get cut off without a full final resolution, it does kind of sit weird with me that they were all like, oh, you want to know how Kirby Right Back at You ends? Well, I guess you gotta buy this DVD right here and find out. Just save your allowance or annoy your parents into buying it for you. It's the only way to watch it. And then a year and a half later, finally play them on TV. But with all that being said, I really enjoy the show. It genuinely puts a smile on my face every time I go back and watch it, and I'm singing along to the theme song every time, no skips. As a kid, I enjoyed the show for the fun characters, the action-packed moments, the awesome transformation scenes that Kirby has when he gets a special power. But as an adult, I admire the efforts that Yoshikawa went through with everyone who worked on the show to figure out the best solution to make a Kirby-based show work. And I admire Sakurai for how much he cares about this character, making sure that when his brainchild is in the hands of another team turning it into a show, he was there to see it all through. Kirby Right Back at Ya may not be the greatest video game adaptation into another form of media, but it surely is a great time to be had sitting down and watching it, just like when I was a kid, with my bowl of cereal on a Saturday morning.
Now back to Kirby Right Back at Ya!
At this point in Kirby's existence, the series was on an upswing, having an anime series that many hold close to them, but on the gaming front, being so recognizable as a character and popping out new games across Nintendo's handheld systems and home consoles. Another big thing that would push the interest in Kirby further at the time of the anime coming out in the United States was the release of Kirby Air Ride, a GameCube game that had Kirby and friends duking it out on an assortment of rides that showcases Kirby on the cover riding on a star, and it was incredible. The amount of fun my friends and I had playing the game with each other are some of the most fond memories that I have from this era, and for a couple of my friends, this game led them to go and check out the show. I mean, in preparation, the show took out a later two-part episode in the series, changed the names of the episodes to Air Ride in Style Part 1 and 2, and played them way earlier on in the series run to promote the game and create some sort of synchronicity. Kirby's brand of this unassuming, simplistic pink design did wonders to bring any demographic in. He was as tough as he was cute, as powerful as he was pink. He could be shown angry and fierce, and be shown happy and carefree. Sakurai did an incredible job establishing a character like this. He's just so easy to fall in love with, and in many cases, I've seen people who don't even really enjoy the gameplay of the core Kirby games still enjoy the character of Kirby, whether they just wanted to collect the merch and items surrounding Kirby, or play as him in Super Smash Bros., or even just watch the anime. A character that can appeal to everyone for whatever reason you are drawn to them is not an easy task, especially in the 90s and early 2000s where every product, toy, show, movie, book, you name it, had campaigns for certain products that focused on one demographic or another, but rarely ever at the time being as open to any demographic. So when something like a Kirby comes around and breaks the standard advertising molds, it was cool to see. Even cooler when it becomes successful through those efforts. The ratings, for the most part, were pretty good between critics and viewers of the show, leading to Kirby Right Back at Ya lasting for 100 total episodes throughout 4 seasons. In Japan, the show came out in October of 2001 and lasted until September of 2003. For the US, the series was released from September of 2002 up until December of 2006. It did end up having its full story told while having a Monster of the Week feeling, ending the series with the resolution of Kirby dealing with Nightmare. 100 episodes is nothing to shake a stick at. A lot of cartoons struggled to get half that, and yet Kirby Right Back at Ya prevailed. A few years later, Yoshikawa came back to write and direct a short called Kirby of the Stars, Take It Down, the crustacean monster Ebizu, or also known as Kirby 3D. It was released in Japan in August of 2009, while it wasn't brought to the US until January of 2012, releasing in 2 parts that came out 10 days apart. For the general release outside of Japan in 2012, the 2 parts were posted on the Nintendo 3DS service called Nintendo Video. While the 8 minutes of a new Monster of the Week episode is fun and cute on its own, and while not being 2D, the 3D animation is still stunning, it was really just great to enter into the world of Kirby Right Back at Ya one more time. It's good to see in modern times that so many kids who grew up watching it are sharing in their love and memories of the series, and Nintendo, along with those who worked on the show, have taken notice. We've seen episodes of it scattered through special releases with games and services, but even as a part of the 30th anniversary for Kirby, it wasn't forgotten. The series received a complete Blu-ray box set earlier this year in March in Japan. Now I guess I just have to wait until this beautiful release comes to the US, and maybe the box itself should have been pink, but that's just me. Kirby is just a character you can't help but love. The design simplicity of a circular pink, mostly mouth thing with shoes is great. The anime may come with a lot of additions so they can have access to tell more compelling stories in the animation medium, but it's overall a pretty fun time, and they did a great job at navigating around Kirby barely ever saying a thing. It holds a nice little nugget of nostalgia in my brain because of it being on the FoxBox, and it just fits so well, having that perfect look of early 2000s animation. And yeah, it's just downright adorable at times. But what are your thoughts on Kirby Right Back at Ya? You gotta let me know. I'm eager to know what you're thinking about it. Let me know in the comments down below. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.